Hey, this is Mark, and you're welcome to AUTOSAYS. Picture this: engineers from Porsche, the brand that basically invented the sports car rulebook, sitting in a Hyundai. Not just any Hyundai, but an electric crossover, and their jaws are hitting the floor. If that doesn't make you want to smash that like button and subscribe because this story gets even crazier, I don't know what will. We're talking about a moment that could reshape the entire future of performance cars, a David versus Goliath story happening right now in the automotive world. And honestly, if you told me 5 years ago that Porsche executives would be studying a Hyundai to learn how to build better sports cars, I would have laughed you out of the room. But here we are, and the plot twist is absolutely delicious. So buckle up, because what happened when Frank Moser, Porsche's vice president of their legendary 911 and 718 lines, got behind the wheel of the Hyundai Ioniq 5N is about to blow your mind. And more importantly, it's going to change everything you thought you knew about the electric vehicle revolution. This isn't just another boring EV story. This is about pride, innovation, and a Korean automaker that just taught the Germans a lesson they'll never forget. Let's rewind for a second and talk about respect in the automotive industry, because it matters more than you might think. When you've spent decades building cars that define performance, cars that win races, cars that make grown adults weep with joy, you don't just admit that someone else did something better than you. That's not how this game works. Porsche has been the gold standard since Ferdinand Porsche first put pen to paper, creating machines that balanced everyday usability with track day dominance in ways that made competitors look silly. We're talking about a company whose 911 has been in continuous production since 1964, evolving but never losing its soul. A company that took on Le Mans and won, a company that charges 6 figures for cars and people line up with cash in hand because they know what they're getting. So when Frank Moser says he drove the Ioniq 5N several times and called it eye-opening, you need to understand the weight of those words. This isn't like your buddy saying he tried a new burger joint and it was pretty good. This is like Gordon Ramsay walking into a food truck and declaring the chef is onto something special. The automotive world has hierarchies, and Porsche sits near the very top, which makes their public praise of Hyundai absolutely earth-shattering. Now, here's where the story gets spicy, and I mean really spicy. Andreas Preuninger, Porsche's GT division boss, the man responsible for the 911 GT3, literally one of the greatest driver's cars ever created, initially wanted nothing to do with the Ioniq 5N. Moser recalls telling Preuninger he was picking him up in the Hyundai, and Preuninger's response was basically, "Leave me alone, I don't want any of that electric stuff." Can you imagine the scene? Here's a guy who breathes internal combustion engines, who has dedicated his career to extracting every ounce of performance from naturally aspirated flat-six engines, being told to get into an electric Hyundai crossover. It probably felt like asking a master sushi chef to review microwave dinners. But then something magical happened, something that nobody expected. Moser pressed the N-Gren boost button, yeah, that's actually what Hyundai calls it, and if you're not grinning at that name alone, check your pulse, and suddenly, Preuninger went from skeptic to believer in the time it takes for 641 horsepower and 740 pound-feet of torque to pin you to your seat. His reaction was simply wow. And coming from a man who daily drives GT3s like normal people drive Camrys, that's about as close to a standing ovation as you're going to get. The fact that Hyundai managed to impress someone who literally defines what a sports car should feel like is the automotive equivalent of a rookie basketball player making LeBron James say, okay, this kid's got something. But hold on, because we need to talk about money for a minute, and this is where the story becomes less about engineering pride and more about an industry in absolute panic mode. The Ioniq 5N delivers supercar performance. We're talking 0 to 60 in 3 seconds flat, the kind of acceleration that used to require a mortgage payment for around $70,000 to $75,000. That's expensive for a Hyundai, sure, but let's put this in perspective. A Porsche 718 Cayman GT4, which has less power and isn't even electric, starts at over $100,000. The Taycan, Porsche's electric sedan, will set you back at least $90,000 and honestly doesn't offer the same complete performance package that the Ioniq 5N delivers. So Hyundai just waltzed into the performance EV market and undercut everybody while simultaneously out-engineering them, which is frankly embarrassing for brands that have been doing this for decades. This is like watching a startup disrupt an entire industry, except it's happening with 2-ton machines that can hit highway speeds faster than you can finish reading this sentence. The financial implications are staggering. Because if Hyundai can do this at this price point, what does that mean for the legacy performance brands? How do you justify charging twice as much when the Korean option is faster, more fun, and packed with more technology? Here's what makes the Ioniq 5N truly revolutionary and why Porsche is paying such close attention. It's not just about the straight line speed, because honestly, any electric car can be fast in a straight line. Tesla proved that years ago with the Model S Plaid, which is basically a spaceship disguised as a sedan. What Hyundai figured out is something that has eluded every other EV manufacturer: how to make an electric car feel like a real sports car, complete with the emotional connection that enthusiasts crave. See, the problem with EVs has always been that they're too perfect, too clinical, too disconnected from the driving experience. You press the accelerator and you get instant, uninterrupted power with no drama, no buildup, no personality. It's impressive the first 5 times, then it becomes about as exciting as riding an elevator. But Hyundai's N division, the same team that turned the humble Elantra into a legitimate hot hatch, understood something fundamental. Driving isn't just about getting from point A to point B quickly. It's about the journey, the sensations, the theater of it all. So they developed this insane system that simulates an 8-speed dual-clutch transmission, complete with gear changes you can feel through the chassis, a fake red line that forces you to shift, and synthesized engine noises that mimic a high-performance internal combustion engine. And before you start rolling your eyes and calling it gimmicky, remember that Porsche's own engineers, people who have forgotten more about vehicle dynamics than most of us will ever know, are calling it the way forward. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, because this is where the internet usually loses its mind. Isn't this all fake? Isn't this just pretending? Don't real enthusiasts want the authentic experience? And look, I get it, I really do. There's something philosophically strange about an electric car pretending to shift gears when the whole point of electric motors is that they don't need gears. It's like wearing a tuxedo to go swimming. Sure, you can do it, but why would you? But here's the thing that critics are missing. Driving is an emotional experience, not just a logical one. Nobody needs a sports car in 2025. You can get from your house to the grocery store just fine in a base model Toyota. The entire sports car segment exists purely to make us feel something, to trigger that little spark of joy that comes from hearing an engine sing or feeling a perfectly executed downshift. So if Hyundai can artificially recreate those sensations and make the driving experience more engaging, more fun, more connected, does it really matter that it's simulated? Frank Moser doesn't think so, and he's literally in charge of the 911, arguably the most important sports car nameplate in history. He explicitly said that customers should have the choice between silent mode and the full simulated experience with virtual flat 6 sounds and gear shifts, which suggests that Porsche themselves might implement exactly this technology in the upcoming electric 718 Cayman and Boxster, expected to hit dealerships in 2027. That's a big deal, folks, because it means the gatekeepers of driving purity have acknowledged that maybe, just maybe, there's value in artificial enhancement if it serves the greater goal of driver engagement. Let's zoom out for a second and look at what's really happening here beneath the surface, because this story is about way more than just 2 car companies. What we're witnessing is a fundamental shift in the global automotive power structure, a changing of the guard that's been building for years but is now impossible to ignore. For the entire 20th century and the first chunk of the 21st, the hierarchy was clear. German brands engineered the best cars, Japanese brands built them most reliably, American brands made them biggest and most powerful, and Korean brands copied everybody but did it cheaper. That was the deal. That was the natural order, and everybody knew their place. Except Hyundai and its sister company Kia decided they were tired of being the budget option, tired of being the punchline, tired of winning on price alone. Hyundai and Kia spent billions of dollars hiring top talent from German and Japanese brands, invested heavily in research and development, took massive risks on new technology, and slowly, methodically, started to close the gap. The Genesis brand showed they could do luxury. The N division proved they could do performance. And now with the Ioniq 5N, they're demonstrating that they can out-engineer the innovators. This is a complete inversion of everything we thought we knew, and it's happening so fast that legacy brands are scrambling to figure out their response. The fact that Porsche is openly studying Hyundai instead of the other way around tells you everything you need to know about where we're headed. But wait, there's a plot twist, because not everybody at Porsche is on board with this plan, and the internal tension is fascinating to watch unfold. Stefan Winkelmann, who actually runs Lamborghini but has also commented on Porsche's direction since both brands are part of the Volkswagen Group, has publicly stated he disagrees with fake combustion engine sounds on electric cars. He told reporters earlier this year that personally he tends to disagree with having fake petrol engine noises, which puts him at odds with what Moser is suggesting for the 718 EV. So you've got this fascinating split within the same corporate family, with some executives believing that electric cars should embrace their silent futuristic nature, while others think that simulating traditional performance car characteristics is essential to winning over enthusiasts. This isn't just a technical debate, this is a philosophical battle for the soul of what a sports car should be in the electric age. And honestly, I don't think there's a clear right answer, which makes it even more interesting to watch play out. What I do know is that Hyundai has forced this conversation to happen years earlier than it would have otherwise, and they've done it by building something so compelling that even the harshest critics have to acknowledge its brilliance. That's power, that's influence, and that's exactly how you change an entire industry. Here's what keeps me up at night, and what should honestly terrify every traditional performance brand. If Hyundai can do this now, what can they do in 5 years? The Ioniq 5N is essentially their first real attempt at a performance EV, their opening salvo, their statement of intent. It's not perfect, it's heavy, it goes through battery charge on the track faster than a college kid goes through their meal plan, and it still looks like a crossover pretending to be a sports car.
But despite all those limitations, it's good enough to impress Porsche engineers, good enough to become a benchmark, good enough to change minds. So imagine what happens when Hyundai's N division gets another generation of development under their belt, when battery technology improves, when they design a dedicated sports car platform from scratch instead of modifying a crossover. We could be looking at a future where Hyundai is producing the most desirable performance cars on the planet, where kids have posters of Hyundai N models on their walls instead of Porsches or Ferraris. That sounds insane, I know, but 15 years ago, the idea of Hyundai making a car that could run with a BMW M3 would have sounded equally insane. And yet, here we are. The speed of change in this industry is accelerating, and the brands that adapt will survive, while the brands that cling to tradition for tradition's sake will become museum pieces. The 718 electric sports car, Porsche's answer to all of this, is expected to arrive in early 2027, and the pressure on that car is absolutely immense. It needs to be lighter than the Ioniq 5N, which Moser admits will be challenging since their EV is a little bit heavier than the current petrol 718. It needs to feel like a Porsche, which means precise steering, perfect balance, and that indefinable quality that makes driving a Porsche special. It needs to justify its inevitable six-figure price tag when customers know they could get similar or better performance from a Hyundai for significantly less money. And now, thanks to Moser's comments, there's an expectation that it might include simulated gear shifts and engine sounds, which means Porsche needs to execute that feature better than Hyundai did, or face endless comparisons and criticism. That's a lot to carry, especially for a brand that's never built an electric sports car before. Will they pull it off? History suggests yes, because Porsche has a habit of figuring things out, of taking ideas from others and perfecting them, of turning challenges into triumphs. But for the first time in decades, there's genuine uncertainty, genuine doubt about whether the German engineering prowess that dominated the 20th century is enough for the 21st. And that uncertainty, that doubt, that's what makes the story so compelling, so important, so worth paying attention to as it unfolds over the next few years. Because when the 718 EV finally hits the streets, we'll know whether Porsche learned the right lessons from Hyundai, or whether the student has truly become the master.